Thank you everybody for coming to the Innovation Collective Fireside Chat. It's a really special night because this is our first one that we are having on the University of Houston Victoria campus. So thank you to the university for letting us have our Fireside Chat here. And also thank you to the City of Victoria for filming this as well. You can make sure to catch it on the City channel. And we are excited tonight because not only do we have an amazing Fireside Chat speaker, we also have 2 success stories that we would like to share with you. So if you guys could come up. You can sit right here, please.
Oh.
So this is awesome because when Joel first came to me, he had a huge fear of public speaking, so I'm sure he's like hating me right now. But he knew, I said, when you achieve your goal and you have success, I'm going to make you get up before our Fireside Chat. So I'm really excited because he's speaking is because he has achieved those things. So if you could please fully introduce yourself and tell him a little bit about your new amazing thing you're doing.
Okay. Is this thing working?
It is.
Is it? Okay.
Yep.
My name is Joel Stratton. I'm the current co-owner and president of Integrity Services. My business partners are Matt Hudgens and J.W. Kurth. And as you may remember, some of you, I owned All Out Junk and Debris Removal, which was a successful business that I grew and lost it. But I didn't give up. So I'm here going at it again and going to make this successful as well.
So how can we find you?
Website's not up yet, and we don't have any business cards as of yet.
That's okay, you're just starting out.
I can be reached at 361-371-4224 or on Facebook as Joel Stratton.
Thank you so much, and it's so amazing to see how you started with this idea and where you wanted to go, and now you're doing it. So if we could all give him a round of applause, really. Thank you. And now we have another success story that is coming up to the stage. If you could please introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Mark Allpeter. For those that attend the Coffee and Concepts, I've been coming there for a few months. Started back in May, I think. So I retired from Dow Chemical. I'm an analytical chemist, and I've done a number of things in my career that I wanted to continue on my own and do things that I wanted to do. And one of those was work with infrared spectroscopy to build universal models. That was something that the textbook says couldn't be done, and we did it in Dow globally. And so now we're going to do it across the industry. But in order to do that, I needed a lab. And so on my first visit to Coffee and Concepts, Chris said, "Oh, that's the guy you need to see, Dr. Glenn." And so that started my relation. I had no idea how. I knew that I would eventually have to talk to him. I had no idea how I was going to get to that door. And it was a God thing. And so we had several conversations, and I moved on to talk to the Department of Science and Biology. And so last week we have signed a letter of intent to collaborate with the University of Houston. And so I have my lab. We're going to talk equipment this week. The other thing is that...
Woo! It's showing that letter.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real letter. So this is a major milestone. I couldn't do it without this. The other thing is we're working on our first patent. We are on round 2, and so in a few weeks we'll have that filed. And so we're slowly making progress every week. It's, as a new business owner, a small business owner, it's amazing how little control you have. But you have to get up every day and put one foot in front of another.
And you're doing it. And congratulations.
Thank you.
So proud. Amazing. And now, without further ado, I would like to bring up the Fireside Chat speaker tonight. It's none other than Robert Royer.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you for being here. So, we're just going to start off. I'm going to be casual and ask you questions. This isn't your first rodeo with this. So, if you could kind of tell me a little bit about where you grew up and what kind of family did you come from?
Yeah. Thank you for having me tonight, Carissa, and thank you to everybody who came tonight. Before I get into that question, I want to preface everything this evening with something that's important to know. I have a weird, convoluted story. I've had a hard life growing up, and so I get a little emotional when I talk about it. I've really never shared my story publicly until one time at UHV, actually, and that's the only time I've ever shared my story publicly in a public setting like this. It actually was a person from UHV, Dean Colwell, who is the dean of the school, College of Business, now College of Business. Business administration. I talked to him about, hey, I'm going to do this Bridge to Brilliance series, and I have this background that I'm not completely proud of it, and I said, I've always hesitated because it's really difficult to, as a business owner, put yourself out there and expose yourself to vulnerability, especially being young and all these things. And Dean Colwell said, no, Robert, you need to let people know about that. That's important for these students to know. And so he was the first one who really encouraged me to tell my story publicly. And so that was a big breakthrough for me. And so to answer your question, I grew up in Houston. I was born in Houston. And I grew up in a good family. I was a family of 5 kids. I was the youngest of 5 kids. I was the only boy, 4 older sisters. And I had a good family, good dad, good mom. My dad was a mechanical engineer with ExxonMobil. My mom was a kindergarten teacher. And then after the 3rd kid, she decided to stay at home, be a stay-at-home mom. Good upbringing. And then at 4 years old, a drastic shift in my life happened. So my dad passed away right in front of my eyes when I was 4 years old. And that shifted my whole trajectory of life at that point. And so it just kind of, it created a big shift where now I'm man of the house at 4 years old. I had 4 older sisters, my mother, and I had a lot of difficulty adapting with it. And so my mom really tried very proactively to get me involved as much as possible. She could see that I was struggling with the death and everything. So she had me, I played all the sports, I was an avid musician, I was in all the activities. She didn't do anything wrong from the way that she raised me, but I was just looking for role models in all the wrong places, not having the right direction, and that caused me to get wrapped up in the wrong crowd, And so then at 13 years old, I got arrested for the first time, and 3 more times at 13, I felt I was in trouble with the law again. By the time I was getting out of 8th grade, I had been in trouble with the law 3 different times. Spent the next decade of my life basically on the wrong side of the law. And it took a lot for me to really just make smart decisions. I was really just looking up to the wrong people. And so then you fast forward a little ways down my life. I was 16, I moved out. 17, I moved out for good. Continually jeopardizing my freedom. And then when I was 21, my girlfriend of 3 months got pregnant. And so now I have this kid entering the picture. My girlfriend is 18 years old, she doesn't work, and we're trying to figure this thing out. And then my son was born, and it was about 3 months into when he was born. I can remember it vividly, exactly what happened. It was my last scare, what I would call a prison scare. I knew that I was going to prison this time. And I went home, and that was the night that I chose to just change my whole life and never look back. And conveniently enough, I had just completed my associate's degree. The one thing that kept me going was my education. It was the only thing I was doing right in my life. And so I decided, well, I'm going to move to Victoria. I have no family here. I moved here to finish my bachelor's degree. It was between here and UH main campus. There were some options here that were more appealing to me at the time based on my circumstances. So I packed up, moved to Victoria, and never looked back. And that was the day that I decided I was going to completely reinvent myself, and I did.
That is, I mean, we need a round of applause for that. That's amazing. And it seems with everything you went through, you were able to take all that and find some strength in it, and you started to identify and recognize kind of the patterns that you were following and looking to the wrong role models. And did you start to find some new role models in your life that helped set you on a new trajectory? Because you talked about you decided to change everything. I know having a kid, but were there some people along the way that helped you kind of get to where you are now?
Definitely. Yeah, there were some coaches. My attorney was my Little League baseball coach for many years, for 7 years. And when I went and got in some trouble, he helped me out, represented me. And so there were some influences like that were really strong influences that pointed me in the right direction. But I'm such a hard-headed individual that I had to learn things for myself. Someone could tell me all day, and I just had to go through it. And so I know when I got here, I had a manager at Olive Garden. I was working at Olive Garden and going to school full time. And there was a manager there, Sonny Baca, who really, he connected with me and helped me realize that, hey, you may have had a certain background, but that doesn't define who you are today, and what you're doing going to school is really good. I was actually homeless at one point while I was attending UHV and working at Olive Garden, going through some things, and he kind of kept on telling me, Robert, you're pursuing your education though. You're continuing your education. And to me, that was that one little building block that I needed, that I could say, hey, no matter what I'm going through right now, I may be sleeping couch to couch with buddies and everything, I still am every day getting one step closer to completing my bachelor's degree. And so it was that one thing I could wake up every morning, and days that, when I'm struggling with the family and the kids aren't with me for a day, or, these sort of things, I could wake up and go, well, I'm continuing to work towards something here.
Well, and I love how you bring up your manager at Olive Garden and those things, and that you're waiting tables, because I think it's so important as a community to realize when we run into people how important it can be your interactions with them, because you don't know if someone is going through all the things you are. You're waiting tables, but you were actually homeless and couch surfing and trying to go to school and better your life. And to be also the manager at Olive Garden, when you're in a position like that where you have people working for you, to be mindful and really realize that we're all just people and we're all going through different things. And that was pivotal moments in your life that now have led you to where you are, because you had that person believing in you, you had that steady job, and you were going to UHV. So it sounds a lot to me that going to UHV really was a catalyst and a savior for you to catapult you to where you are now.
100%. And those people as well, not just the Sonny Baca, but all the Sonny Bacas, who really, Sonny knew, I feel, that he knew when he was having those conversations with me that he knew that he was one of the few people having those conversations with me at the time.
And so when you were going to the college and you were doing all the things that you were doing, did you ever think that you would be running your own business? Did you know that's what you wanted to do? How did you get to that moment where you decided, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, so I've known that I wanted to at least manage a business since I was about 11 or 12 years old. I knew I had it in me. Didn't know if I wanted to own one, but I knew I wanted to manage one. And what was kind of the thing that led me down this path was when I graduated college, I got a job with the Victoria Advocate, became their advertising sales manager, and at a certain point, they started a digital agency, which I started to manage, and I realized that that I wanted to do things in the agency world that were a little bit different. They broke the mold in the traditional model of marketing agencies. And I was so young that I knew the likelihood of anyone listening to me to break that mold was going to be pretty tough, because I was 25 years old managing a range of people that were 40, 50, 60 years old, quite a bit older than me. And I was definitely the youngest person in management. And so I knew that if I was going to do it the way I wanted to do it, I had to do it myself. Well, you fast forward a little bit, I left Advocate to join another agency in town, and that agency is now dissolved. And when I joined that other agency, one thing or another happened, and long story short, everybody within the agency that we left ended up in a lawsuit for $1 million. And I was 28 years old, being sued for $1 million, which I didn't have, still don't have. And so I, thankfully, with the grace of God, everything got taken care of, and it was, and it was settled quickly. But that was the turning point in my life that I really felt was something brought by God in my life, because it was, okay, now I can go and be part of a startup with another agency that I'm not sure if that's where I'm supposed to be anymore, or this could be the time that I go out and start my own. And so it felt very much so like everything was telling me this is the time to do it.
And I love how you trusted your gut and your intuition on that. And do you feel in some way all of the roads that led you on with, your legal things before, that when you went through that other legal thing, you're like, you know what, I've got this and I'm gonna roll with this and make my way through it? Because I know when we go through certain things, it's not like a shock out of nowhere, like, whoa, what's happening? And so it seems like you handled that really well, and you didn't veer off course, and you're like, hey, this is my time to do this.
Well, one of the things that was different about this situation compared to early situations in my life is everything that happened earlier in my life, I'm not sitting up here tonight looking for any mercy. They were all self-inflicted wounds, things that I did in my own life, that I created my own problems and my own struggles. In this particular instance, I didn't do anything wrong. So I knew I was solid and I was good because I didn't do anything wrong, and I knew in my heart of hearts that I did the right thing. And I had been brought to this point by God. I knew He would get me out of it. And so I really felt very much like I was ready to go through it, and it was just a sign. It was another sign that this is time for me to make a change.
And so if you were graduating college again today, right now in this time, what would you do different?
Yeah, what I would do different is I definitely would get involved from a networking standpoint and a relationship standpoint much earlier. I was one of those that thought, hey, I'm just gonna coast and I'm gonna get my degree, and when I graduate with my degree, I'll get the really solid job offer and everything's gonna be kosher from there on out. All I need is the degree. And I didn't get real involved with the university from service organizations and clubs and things of that nature. And so I would get involved much earlier because when I spent my first year of my career, my working career after graduation, really trying to get involved in the community, that's when everything started fast tracking, when I intentionally started to get involved. So I wish I would have done that sooner. That's my biggest regret.
Well, and it's like when you have more intention behind what you're doing, because if you're going to school for something and then you get in front of those people and you already have a network made in the community, then that, like you said, it's a fast track to where you're going and what you want to do. That's great advice for, I believe, people going to school right now, or just people in the community in general, to think about for your career or your business or whatever it is that you're building or wherever you're going. And so I'm curious, you've really accomplished a lot of things in a short amount of time, and you have a really amazing company. I mean, if you haven't checked out their office, please do. It's awesome. I don't even know, I walk in there, I'm like, is this a workplace? This is so cool, and the culture. So what is your secret to that? Because really, all of your employees are such good people. They're all happy when I go in there. No one looks like mad to be there. So what is your secret to this, or how do you do that?
First of all, I would be amiss to pretend that it's me. I am part of it, but it's definitely the team environment that we cultivate. I have team members tonight that showed up to support. Business partners who showed up to support. And I think we really used to call it this thing called the BBM family, is what we started referring to it as. And my fiance, Fivella, really one day was reading something, and she read about this idea that a family is a little bit confusing, because family sometimes, no matter what, you're blood related, and sometimes we've all heard the saying, well, they're family, forgive them. you know? Family, you're with whoever your blood family is, whether you like it or not. So Fee suggested, what if we call it a community? Because a community chooses to be with each other and chooses to build each other up. And so I was like, oh, that's perfect. And then it also brought on this other component of it, which is a community environment is what we want to cultivate. But then the unity part of it was even more important, because the reality is I could go and be a marketing director for some entity. There's plenty of people in our organization who can, people who are in tonight's audience who have been, or could be, and we knew that we're all stronger together. We're better in unison with each other because one person is one person, whether you're the most awesome person in the world at what you do. And so we knew that we were capable of a lot more collectively as a community. And I think that culture has been contagious. And it wasn't me really who started it. I think it was everybody that we've brought on. We vetted them to be sure, not everybody maybe, but most people, we vetted them to be sure that they have that same mindset of the greater collective and the output of the collective over our individual outputs.
And it's true, like I said, if you haven't been there and met the people that work there, I highly recommend just go in the office and meet them, because it's such a cool environment and that's not easy to do. So really, really impressed with that. And then with you doing all the things you're doing and finding success, I'm curious too, how do you define success?
Yeah, that's a great question. And for me, success is about creating opportunity in other people's livelihoods. That's my number one benchmark for success. So when I first started this business, it was just supposed to be a one-person consulting firm. Y'all have heard this story so many times for my team members that are here, but I was gonna just do independent consulting, and I got about 60 days in and realized that I was gonna work myself to death, and so I tore up my whole consultant model and individual consultant model and went down the traditional ad agency route, as well as continuing to do the strategic consulting, and that changed the game for me, because in the first year or so, it was all about just trying to get new business and survive, you know, and stay busy enough to be able to pay my bills and that sort of thing. Really, really changed. I got a divorce 1 year into my business, and so it became even more so about that. And then sometime around the 2-year point, somewhere in that range, it became about wanting to create opportunities for others, and not just opportunities in terms of employment, but opportunities for the Joel Strattons of the world, you know, to those individuals who have their own businesses and being able to increase their livelihood. One of the businesses that I work with very closely for a long time has been Venturas Tamales. And I remember the first Christmas with them, when I was working with them full time, hearing them talk to me about some of the differences that we had made on their business, it gave me goosebumps. And that was when, like, I know this is what I want to do. But then it became this thing of, I want to create opportunities for others, and I want to be the person that creates, in the company, that creates the jobs that I would want if I was in college and graduating in marketing, or if where I would want to intern, or where I would want to work. And to me, when you can create opportunities for livelihoods, either for the clients we work with or for the individuals that work with us, that was where I found like that gratification I've been looking for this whole time of, this is what I want, it's my feel good, you know?
And I know that you hire people from the community, but I also think it's so cool how you give students at the university a chance to work with you as well. It's really amazing to see how you take the effort to do that, and you do create those jobs that are meaningful and that they actually want to go to and they're having a good time. And you're creating a space for people to thrive and be happy and actually enjoy going to their job. And so it goes back to that culture, to really being the type of boss that people want to have. And so kudos to you for doing that, because that's the kind of environments we want to see. You know, you talk about community and making an impact on other people. That's when you have a business, what I also feel very much, those of you who know me know, that's what I'm big about, community and really involving people. So when I see other people that do that and go above and beyond, it's not every day that you run across that, and it's really truly something special. And so when someone comes to you and they ask, how do I become successful? How do I do what you're doing? What is the message or what you would tell them so that they can also be successful?
So there's two parts to that. To me, when I think about success and what I can do to be more successful, there's my individual success, and then there's the collective success of whatever team, whatever organization, whatever family I'm a part of. And so to the second part of it being the community success, I think the easy short answer is it takes a village. Have to find other people to buy into this mindset and this vision of something greater than ourselves, and then everybody helps set that bar and set that standard. Because the reality is, going back to the intern thing and cultivating talent from UHV, I know that's super critical because we need to keep talent in Victoria, and we need to create high quality, high compensating, good benefits marketing jobs to keep those jobs in our community, because that's what's going to make everything go around. It's going to make the circle go full cylinder. But that can't come just from me, because I'm only one person, and I, in organizations and these sort of things, it has to come from everybody else within the company that they believe in that same common vision. And so first of all, it takes a village, and I would be fooled to think that I can go out there and become successful just by myself. That's a big misconception. It's there's no coincidence here that we've had the majority of our growth in our business, our biggest growth yet, in the last 18 months to 2 years. And my fiance has been in my life for that time frame, helping with the kids, taking care of the family, so I can focus more on the business. And those two things have happened in correlation with one another, not by coincidence. It's because it takes a village. So to individual success, what I would say is relationships. The key to business, I believe, to any success factor is relationship building and learning how to cultivate those relationships, and saying yes and putting yourself out there and joining organizations, coming to events like this. It may be a pain to sit here and listen to us talk for an hour, but the reality is you may shake someone's hand tonight that could open that next door. Hearing some of the stories tonight, it's really cool because I'm really excited to see that's what it takes, the relationship building, and I think that we have to me, I always have to remind myself, and I know that we all need to remind ourselves that we are the opportunity. We hold the connections. We just have to go out there and put in the work.
And you're right, it takes a village. It's trying to think you could do something on your own. It's so crazy, and it'll work you to death. Like you said earlier, you quickly realize that. And so when you get with others and you have those people lifting you up and supporting you, it makes all the difference. And then getting out there and building those relationships, like you said, hey, we're sitting here talking for an hour, but you know what also? You might have shook someone's hand or sat next to somebody, or you hear one little nugget of knowledge that you say that sticks with them, or they go tell somebody, and that forever changes someone's life. And that is real. After every single Fireside Chat, I've had people reach out to me telling me that something they heard or someone they met, it's changed their life in the most pivotal way. So it's that connecting with people, and it's getting out there and saying yes, even though you may want to sleep in and not go to something, or you want to sit at home and watch your series on TV, but it's saying, you know what, yes, I'm going to go do this thing. And when you say yes, a different door will start to open. Just like, Mark said earlier when he set up here about getting in UHV, it was him coming down to the Coffee and Concepts, and the doors started to become open. Well, it's because he got up that morning, got there at 7:30 in the morning. It's early, but he did it. And it's like you getting in the community, being involved how you are. And it's your family rallying around you and helping you and all those things. It's each opportunity takes community, and you have that village standing behind you, cheering you on and supporting you, which is so important.
Absolutely.
And so going through all the things you've gone through and meeting tons of different people, I'm sure you've gotten a lot of advice of all kinds, but what's the best advice you've ever gotten?
The best advice I've ever gotten was from my mother, and she taught me to set goals, which seems like a simple piece of advice, but I've listened to that very closely, especially around that 22, 23 year where I started to understand life, I feel like. And to this day, I still set goals, and if we don't set goals and define goals, it's hard to define a plan of action on how we're going to get there. We're just what I call, we refer to it all the time with the management team, flailing. We're just figuring it out, and hopefully we'll make it there. And so I still set goals. And by that same token, I think it's important to be able to reset those goals or reassess those goals if they no longer match your objectives. One goal of ours, or myself, that I've been vocal with our management team about is I would like to see us in 5 years from now have over 50 employees and be one of the largest marketing agencies in the state of Texas. Now, with that being said, if I get 2 years, 3 years down the road and realize that's not the right direction for us for whatever reason, I'm willing to reset, and I'm not going to be ashamed, embarrassed, and I'm willing to reset and say I need to pivot because my goals, I've reassessed, I've done a SWOT analysis on where I'm at, and my goals have changed a little bit.
And when you set goals, it does give you that clear direction. And the point that you made about being willing to pivot, that is so important because life happens, circumstances happen, just like COVID. We couldn't have predicted that, we didn't know that was coming, but a lot of businesses you saw, they had to pivot. And if you were to stick to that, say, well, no, that's not in our plan, and some businesses did that, and unfortunately they failed. So it's about making those clear goals and really having strategy behind it and how to reach those, but also not being ashamed to pivot. Things happen, and that's life, and that's really great. And I know that you told me you're having planning meetings, and I think that's so fantastic because I deal with a lot of companies throughout the years, and a lot of them, they never make clear goals, and they don't have a strategy to get to where they want to go, so they're just constantly flailing. I like your flailing move. They're flailing out there, and it's true. And so when you have a clear pathway and you can see where you're going, it's kind of like the game Candyland. That's kind of the analogy that I like to use because most of us have seen that or played it, but when we're little, we realized where we needed to go and how we could get there. And so I think, why don't we do that with our life as well of our business, to have those clear goals and those strategies. And I think that's also clarity's kindness. So that's also very kind to your employees to say, hey guys, look, this is where we want to be. Let's all work towards this to get here. And then they know the task they have to do to get there. And they're not just flailing around saying, what do I need to do? Where do I need to go? And so with the people you've come across, is there anyone that's been innovative that has really stuck out to you, and why?
That's a really difficult question for me to answer because obviously being in the industry I'm in, I've gotten to meet a lot of people and work with some big companies and big innovators that I guess at the size that we're at in terms of agency, it's been really exciting and humbling to meet some of these people. But to me, we have such a creative company. We have brilliant designers, creators, Fivel, my fiance, Ruben Vera, our creative director who's not here, Micah Riffle. These guys are some of the most brilliant creative minds that I've ever been surrounded by. It's really just changed the way I look at some stuff. But we also have a lot of innovators, and so what I would say, out of everybody I've met in my life, and I'm not just saying this because I didn't even know he was coming tonight, I would say the biggest innovator would be Alex Richardson, my business partner. And that's because Alex Richardson started working with me when he was 19 years old. And sometime around 2021, he stopped working for me and started working with me, alongside me. And he came from a good background because he never worked in another agency, which is good because he was able to bring fresh perspective and say, why do we do it this way? And I go, well, I learned that in my old agency or whatever. And he's like, well, that's stupid, or have you actually Alex would be like, well, I was thinking about this approach. He wouldn't say that's stupid. He would be very kind and polite about it, and I would know that he's basically telling me that was stupid. And anyway, he would bring new suggestions, and he's been so innovative in bringing new ways of thinking around my original business model that I put together, that it's been pivotal in getting us to this point in some of the growth that we've had, because he turned over leaves of opportunity that I didn't know existed, or I hadn't thought about it that way. There's such a big difference in two people running a business compared to one person. There's an enormous gap between one and two, and I was able to kind of experience firsthand that gap.
Well, and I want to back up a second to recognize your leadership qualities, because you said a lot of things that were really amazing that show what a great leader you are. Is you said that the people impacted you and made you start thinking about things differently. That shows a really good quality of a leader, that you do listen to the people that work for you and with you, and you take recognition and you acknowledge those things, and then you take it in and you learn from them. And also you had someone that worked for you, they now work with you. Because as a leader, I always want to see people become better than I am. I always want to see people be their best and have a pathway. And so I recognize those qualities that when you were talking, and that's really important for people to hear as a leader and running a business, that you have that culture. And I think that both of those things point to, again, why the culture is so great in your company, is because you give credit where credit is due, and you give acknowledgement, and you yourself as a leader are learning from your team, which I think is fantastic, that it's a two-way street. It's not, hey, I know everything because I own this. It's like, hey, no, come here, that's a fantastic idea. So that's really, really special. That's awesome. And then, is there any books that you've read or that you've come across lately that you just think everyone should know about or that were really helpful to you?
Yeah. So
I like that the people that work with you are laughing in the crowd.
it's because I would say that I'm involved in a book club with my company, but it's not a book club. I really mandated everybody has to, the management team has to read this book. So they probably can already guess. I am obsessed with the book Crucial Conversations. An employee, one of our directors actually brought the book to me. She used to work at a hospital. She was the director of marketing at a hospital, and so they had to have a lot of crucial conversations, needless to say. And she brought the book to me. I started it with my fiance, and I'm obsessed with it now. So I'm making our entire management team read it. But I really wish I would have read it 10 years ago, because in a lot of young management scenarios that I was thrown in the fire, talking about managing those older demographic staff at a previous role, had I read this book, I think I would have been more equipped to have those conversations without needing the experience factor of it.
So I saw everyone writing that down. So everyone's they're putting in their phone and writing it
There's
down.
4 authors that have combined on it and done case studies and stuff, so I can't tell you the author, but Crucial Conversations.
Yeah, Google it. And so when we're talking about the area of Victoria and all the growth that we have going on, because I know you see it every day, working all around town and all the things that you do, what direction do you think Victoria needs to go to keep becoming, better economically and keep growing and keep the community going in a forward motion and in a positive motion?
Yeah, that's a great question. To me, it really starts with education and putting education at the forefront. For me personally, my education was a critical component, I think, to where I'm at today and some of the relationships I've made. And even in our business, I think it's been a critical component to the success of our business, having that education pipeline, the internships, so on and so forth. But I think that education is what's going to attract new businesses to our community, not just obviously putting it at the forefront, but continuing to make it better and better and better, from pre-K all the way through colleges and trade schools as well. And I think that in addition to that, just continuing to improve our education, I think that the other thing is there's been this, I've been here 10 years now in Victoria. I come from the big city, so the inevitable question every time I tell someone I'm from Houston is, well, why are you here? You don't have any family here, what are you doing, And my belief is that the grass is greener on the other side of the green until you get there. But I also know that in this community, if you want to get involved and you want to get engaged and you want to meet big decision makers and movers and shakers, you just have to get out there. And if you spend your time intentionally putting yourself out there, in 1 year you can probably meet everybody that you really would like to meet if you're very intentional about it. And I don't know a lot of communities that can be done in that create the same amount of opportunity we have. Now, with that being said, with me not being from here, but being here long enough that I'm accepted like I'm from here, I think that there needs to be a continued, persistent effort, things like this, that are trying to embrace change and development and growth in our community. And I've seen a lot of that in our city government recently, over that. I can feel it, feel the energy over the past few years. And so I think we need to keep that momentum going, because someone who's been here 10 years, I can look back over the last 2 years or so, and I can tell you I can genuinely feel that there's a big momentum shift of people that are embracing this growth. And so we have to continue to do so.
And you are exactly right. You can feel that shift of energy and how things are growing in a positive trajectory. And it's really an exciting time, especially I'm sure as a business owner, to see this and to see, more people coming to the area, and the people that are here, that they're starting to open businesses and dreaming, but actually executing those dreams. To see the university, how it's been growing, and the students, and it's really something so awesome about our community, is that you can really get out there and you can create the life you want if you really try, and you have that village behind you doing it, and you have the right people in your corner. So I really applaud you for sharing your story and your hardships, because I know that's not easy, and also for the type of leader you are and how much that you give back, you and your family, to the community. That's really pivotal, I feel, to what makes this city so great, is having people like you and your family in it and doing all the things you do, not only as business owner, but also as part of this community. So thank you for that, and thank you, because I see Fia out there. She's amazing, his fiance. And so now is the time where you guys all get to ask a question. So if you could raise your hand and introduce yourself, and then you get to ask them what you want. And I'm going to bring the microphone to you.
Terry Moten. So, Robert, it was, 4 or 5 years ago when I first met you. We had a little coffee get together at Box Coffee.
Yes, ma'am.
And one of the things that stood out about you, kind of continuing on that community that you built in your organization, was your idea of how it should be collaboration over competition. I would love for you just to talk a little bit about why it's so important for businesses in Victoria who may be perceived competitors. What does collaboration mean versus why not look at it as a competitive role? Why you should look at it as a collaborative role?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Terry. So the short answer is we're turning down at additional exposure if we're looking at other people in the similar industry or other organizations, like competition rather than an opportunity for collaboration. We all have different relationships. Going back to the relationship component, we have different, followings, for lack of a better term, different social circles. And so we could be missing opportunity by not finding opportunities to collab together. I remember I was another, and I've told you this story before, Terry, another individual that was working with another agency. She was brand new in town, just came here from California, I believe, and she said, "Hey, very nice to meet you. We met at Rotary," and she said, "This is awesome. I come from a marketing background," and she said, I want to develop I want to do a workshop that we'll host together. And she's a great public speaker. And I said, "That's great." I said, "That sounds awesome." And I could tell when I met this lady, I was like, "Oh crap, I gotta sell against her in this market." I was like, she's got some stuff, she's pretty talented. And I said, "Man, oh, okay." I was like, that's my first instinct, right? Like anyone, And then she said, "Hey, I want to collaborate. Maybe we can do a workshop." I said, "That's great," because I was first of all thinking maybe I could learn something from her, I don't know right now. But then second of all, she struck me with the right intentions, and that she wasn't looking to have some joint workshop so she can try to steal a bunch of clients or anything like that. She was immediately opening up the door of collaboration. That was her whole purpose of that conversation. She went back to the bosses at her organization, said, "Hey, I met this guy today at Rotary." She said, "We're going to have a workshop together." They said, "That's great. That sounds awesome. Who is it?" She said, "Robert Boyer." And they said, "Absolutely not." They said, "No, you are not. You're not having a joint workshop with them. They are our competition." And she told me all this. Well, interestingly enough, the cool part of the story is then she calls me and says, hey, I want to sit down with you. I noticed you're hiring for was it at the time a web developer? And I said, okay, I didn't think she was a developer, but she wants to sit down. Okay, so we had a conversation, and she said, my husband's a developer, and he's very talented. So again, I think a lot of people might say, I'm not going to hire somebody who works for a competing company, theoretically. His husband, that could be a conflict. He could share trade secrets, whatever. Sat down with him. He ended up being a very excellent employee for us, worked with us for a few years, was a very, very good employee, went on to the Small Business Development Center. Oh, I guess that just outed who it was. I didn't know that. But anyway, he... So with that being said, I think those types of opportunities, I was an excellent employee who had spent 2 years with our company, was a strong contributor, he was a manager, and went on to a good growth opportunity. I don't think that could have ever been there if I wasn't open to having that conversation. And so I think that we're selling ourselves short of opportunity and exposure when we think of things narrow-minded, like that approach of it's competition, you know? Very good question, though.
Very good question. Another question?
Sorry to get myself out of this seat here. My name is Brooke Garcia. I'm with the College of Business here at UHB. So first I wanted to say I assumed that you were somehow related to the Venturas because of the way you guys market them. So that's awesome with your marketing company.
That's the mileage.
Yeah. Right. But the other part is, like, unbeknownst to you, I think I told you at Rotary one day that I had done it. I was like Facebook stalking your business and watching you grow during COVID. And so I've used your company as a fictitious company in my classes when we've done business scenarios and stuff because of the way you guys just really jumped on the opportunities that came with the pandemic and when people needed to go digital and all of that. So can you talk to that a little bit, because I'd like to know more so I can continue with my fictitious company in the process.
Yeah, thank you, Brooke. And COVID was a unique opportunity for us because it did create the need to go digital really quickly, and it created the need for quick messaging, same-day messaging turnaround of, hey, we have curbside now, pick it up over here, videos, things of that nature. And I looked at COVID along with our my colleagues that we work with, like, okay, we can either sit back, we can take this one in the jaw, or is there any, and this, I'm not ashamed to say it, I looked at, in this situation, is there any opportunity for our business? Or is everybody just gonna cut back their marketing spends and we're just gonna fall under and we just started growing and have to lay off and all this sort of stuff? So we found the opportunity in that, and then we found the turnkey things. I remember Micah came to me one day, my production director, and he said, hey Robert, I created this thing that's a template, it's already done for this client that we work with, and he said, it's, everything was big about, like, when y'all walked in the stores, everybody remembers, it was like every 6 feet, stand here, and then it was messaging, pick this up here and curbside here. It was for a sign printing business, and he had came up with a video that explained all the different COVID emergency signage that they could print. And so we brought it to the client, and of course the client was like, yeah, let's do it, let's put it out tomorrow. Well, that sort of proactiveness sent a message to that client, which is a well-involved person in the community as well, that this is how quick we're looking to pivot and how we're looking to support your business. And so what we did was then, during COVID, we were still at our infancy stage of a business in the big picture of things. We have about somewhere around 28 team members or something like that today, but at this point, I think we were around like 3 of us at the beginning of COVID, 3 or 4. And so we were still operating by email entirely. We didn't even have a workflow management software. And we were sending orders back and forth through email. And so we were still figuring out how to work remotely. And so it actually forced us to figure out how to structure our whole business model and grow exponentially in that time frame in a remote environment, which, us being a digital-based company and a technology-based company, allowed us to be a little bit quicker, I think, on getting the right software. Alex researched Active Collab, said, hey, I think this is a good workflow management software that's going to improve our communication. And we were moving so quickly, we were proactively thinking about how is this going to look when we have 4 more employees and when we have 5 more employees. And so that was one of the critical components, was trying to think quick on our feet and not get set, and this is the way that we did it 15 days ago, 30 days ago, and this is how we need to do it now. That's a really difficult thing to do when you have a larger management team. People naturally are resistant to change, and if you train someone on something and then 60 days later go back and say that process is changing, it creates some friction. You know, like what the heck? I just got that thing down that you just said 60 days ago to do. And so we had to create an environment that said, hey guys, we're growing quick. We're going to be making a lot of changes very quick. Ride with me on this thing though, because we're giving raises to everybody. Everybody gets raises, like Oprah. Everybody gets raises. We got benefits coming down the pipeline. We're getting better offices. We've moved 4 offices in 4 years to get more space and nicer offices. Thank you to our office manager for attending this evening, Joe. And so that I think allowed people to buy into this mindset of rapid change, because every time we were implementing change, we were backing it up with some benefit to everybody in the organization. And I think people resonate most with benefits, right? When you give them some benefit.
Another question?
Hi, I'm Jenny Whitaker. I'm a hometown girl and recently moved back to Houston. Do you have any clients who are dogs? Like, do you take on dog clients?
That's an interesting question. Do we have any clients that are dogs? We do not currently have clients that are dogs.
Could you help raise a dog's profile?
Yeah. Now, 2 cool stories related to dogs. A, we do have an employee that's a dog.
Great.
We have an office dog. He's our marketing manager, and his name is George. And so we do have an employee who's a dog. Now, we don't have any clients that are dogs yet. My first job, actually, though, was raising and training greyhounds to race. So we have lots of connections to dogs, but we're yet to have an actual dog as a client.
Okay, I might talk to you then.
Thank you. Great question.
Hi, this is Donovan Huff from Data Systems. So I know you mentioned like the books, and if you would have known now what you when you were younger, or whether if you had the knowledge that you had now, and you look back and you could plan it out differently, we all would have done things differently. But what advice would you give businesses that are looking to grow, looking to build those teams? You talked about being collaborative, and the importance of hiring experts for whatever field they want to do. Like you talked about the software, or if they're doing marketing, or if they're not good at accounting or something. The importance you've seen, just like with your clients, with friends, other business owners, the ones that do that versus the ones that don't, and how they've grown over the years.
Yeah, so thank you, Donovan. That, for me, I knew, like I mentioned earlier, that I was probably primed to manage a business, at least since I was very young, and I got leadership despite everything I was going through in my teenage years, and I was a mess. And I always excelled in my jobs, and I always was promoted to leadership or management positions with almost every organization I've worked with. And for a long time, my management or my growth approach was, learn the processes and systems, and then try to convince people to listen to me. And being a young manager, that doesn't always work so well. And so I think one of the biggest things I would encourage people to do now that I learned in the last, half decade or so, is that one, if every sense of direction is coming from me, we have a limited ceiling, because I don't have all the answers, and I don't want to pretend to have all the answers. But then 2, I think that if every sense of direction is coming from me, we have a very skewed perspective on the future and where we're going from here. So I think the best thing you could do is solicit input from not just your team members, your staff, your employees, from your clients, proactively asking your clients. I regularly ask my clients, in meetings, what can we do differently? What can we do better? What are we not doing so well right now? Because I want to know that feedback, and sometimes it's a painful answer. Hey, Robert, you've grown a lot. I can't call you at 9:30 anymore at night and get a hold of you. It's something like that. But it does give me outside perspective, and then also asking perspective of other people in the community, not necessarily in the industry, in the community, because a lot of things in a local service-based entity like us, which all of our business isn't local. We do a lot of national business as well, but our root and our foundation is with the local entities. A lot of what we do is dictated by what's happening regionally, and in terms of talent, employment, recruitment, where there's money, marketing dollars going out the door. And so I have to be very in tune with other business owners in the community and asking them what is their business tempo like right now? What are they seeing in terms of recruitment to try to proactively think about those things? But the short answer is ask input from everybody. And then you have to figure out when to not take all that into consideration with the direction, like what is not applicable is applicable, and really make the hard decisions and hard discussions there.
Question?
Very good job. I have a question. So if I was wanting to hire your firm to work with me and thinking about where the future is going in digital marketing, I see a lot of people talking about a lot of different opportunities. But when you're in a business where you're working one-on-one, relationships matter, how would someone market that type of business?
Yeah, education and nurturing. So it's middle of the funnel through and through. I think that the new relationships, while yes, there are opportunities to establish new relationships in financial advisor, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the financial advising industry, I think that usually, more often, I guess I should say, the relationship is what opens the conversation. And so I think there are approaches to be able to open that conversation outside of just a relationship, but I think where you're going to create the most conversion and impact towards your conversions is going to be the middle of the funnel, giving them continued education, information, and establishing yourself as a thought leader, as an industry leader, and giving them useful information that then can either A, convince them to contact you because you provided some piece of information that they didn't know that was critical, that created an urgency, a timely factor, or B, you've built such strong credibility that they trust you as a trusted advisor and as their consultant, that when they make the decision that they're ready to make a financial decision, they have no option but to call you, or at least you're one. My belief is always this. I always say this, at least I want them to cross me off their list and consider me in the process when they're making that purchase decision. I'm happy if they cross me off their list. I just don't want them not to think about me,
So that suggestion would be, having a website with a video coming up and having somebody a lot more handsome than me doing the talking and convincing them of our story. Is that what you're?
That could be one thing. I think a lot of it relies on first party data, capturing emails, phone numbers. It could be YouTube subscribers to be able to publish video content, Facebook followers, and TikTok followers, and being able to reach out to these people organically for free, essentially, every time with your information, and really building a strong first party database of email addresses, phone numbers, and social media followers, so you can then put together that content and deploy it and not have to spend enormous amounts of money on all these media channels to try to get the message out there, because unless I'm wrong about your industry type, you're in a sort of niche audience of people who really are target clients. It's not necessarily like a car dealer where everybody's going to have to buy a car at some point, which is a different story. And so I think it's building that first party data would be my number one priority right now.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Kenny.
Another question? We have time for one more.
question for you now.
Yeah.
Okay. What advice would you have for a legacy business that has, been in the community for a long time? You feel like, what else can they be doing? If you feel like people already know us, we've been here for so long, what would you tell that business to do different?
Um,
So your advice for long-standing legacy business?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I paused because to me, if someone asked me that question, I would tell them, do you know anyone who's moved here? Ever? That's probably will be my response because I think that there's new people coming in and out of the community, first of all. So we would have to continue. And I have had that question, to be fair. I've been in the media industry for over 8 years. I've had people, obviously that's a common objection when I sold newspaper ads at the beginning days. I'd walk in the door and they go, I've been here 20 years, I don't want any more business. I'm like, good, you don't want any more business? Perfect, who would want more business? And I just walk out. And so anyways, the thing about that is, if we get stuck in what we've been doing, we need to look at the most successful companies in the world and we need to say, did they ever do the same thing for 20 years and stay at the top? Google is one of the largest, most successful companies in the world, and every day, down to just last week, they're creating more rollouts of new products. Apple is just pounding programmatic approach now. These companies are pivoting and they're changing and they're continuing to adapt to stay number one. And so us thinking that, hey, we've done it like this for 10 or 20 years, basically to me what I'm hearing from someone if they tell me that is, I'm ready to just stand pat and I'm ready to watch my business digress and just ride this thing out to retirement and hopefully I make it there. And so I would tell them, do you want to grow or do you want to stay the same where you're at now? Because if you keep doing the same thing, you're not going to stay the same. Your competition is going to pull market share from you. And I watched this happen in COVID extensively with the guys who said, I'm going to cut back. And then we had other guys that came in, or they even new clients that called us and said, I'm going all in on this thing, which is what we did. We went all in and we said, we're going to spend every resource to hire up talent. And I was giving Alex a heart attack with how close I was finishing the payroll, but it was like, I'm going all in on this thing, on this opportunity because I see the opportunity and I'm gonna double down and I'm gonna pull market share and steal it while we can and we have this opportunity while other people are getting more conservative. And that's what was able to happen. And I saw a lot of clients do the same thing when they doubled down during COVID and saw it as an opportunity to actually focus in. And working remotely, you can be a little more channeled in and you don't get interrupted 100 times a day. And so they can refine some of their processes and that sort of thing. So sorry, that's a very long answer to your question, but hopefully that helps.
No, those were all really amazing questions and great answers. And I just really want to thank you for your time and once again, everything that your company does and you and your family do for the community. I know that I myself learned a lot from this, so thank you. And thank you to everyone that came tonight. And again, the City of Victoria for recording this. And to let everybody know, tomorrow, actually, this Wednesday, we are having our launch party at Moonshine, 6 p.m. So come out tomorrow. We're going to have live music by Cat Wolf and Jim Beasy. It's amazing because Cat Wolf actually voice, pun intended. She was already doing some voiceover work, but she's performing in our community. So it's really cool to see the full circle there, and you'll get to connect with people and it'll be a great time. So hope to see all of you there. And once again, thank you for everything you do. And it's amazing to hear how you pivoted during COVID. I mean, that's...
Thank you. Chris, I have one last thing.
Oh, yes, of
before
course.
we leave. I really want to say thank you to you, first of all, Bryce. I mean, y'all are incredible friends. I love what y'all are doing for the community, and I love what Innovation Collective is doing and the energy that y'all bring. I think that is the pinnacle point of exactly what I'm describing. Of we have to keep up that positive energy of people that want to work together in collaboration with one another to help build each other up. And I use those exact words. Terry, actually, I hear her talk about that all the time. Let's build each other up. Let's build each other up. And so thank you to you, Innovation Collective. Thank you to my amazing team. Thank you to my fiance and my family, because without my family, there's no way I would be here today. It's the only thing that kept me sane at times, and while I'm grateful to be here today and be on this stage and talking to you, and being able to relay my message to the city of Victoria and everybody in the room. I wouldn't be here without God, my family, my team members, and my community that's really embraced me like I was born and raised here, and I appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you, appreciate you.